Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Law, Chapter 30A, subsection 18, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the Hubbardston Board of Health will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information in the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and or parties with a right and or requirement to attend this meeting can be found at www.hubbardstonma.us. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the town's website an audio or video recording transcript or other comprehensive records of proceedings as soon as possible. So with that being said, this meeting is being recorded. You're on mute, Kate.
Screens to toggle. So jumping to the agenda, we're going to reorder based on folks on the call. Mallory, at your discretion, how you'd like to open.
So we have 31 Geordie Lane, and we have a ranch here at the request of Kathy. So while Kathy is not popped into the meeting yet, I would say we should start with Geordie Lane.
Okay.
And that's Brian Young, Mark Popham, and Matt Hopkins. Mark.
Hello.
Hi there.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Who would like to speak? And Mallory, do we have, I know we have documentation. I don't know what document we need to refer
Sure.
to.
So this was, if I remember correctly, a replacement of a D-box. And Matt just has some items he wanted to bring to the board, and we just have to have some discussion about it. So I sent over that email that he sent over, so I just wanted, you guys got that.
Yep.
He's just here to have some discussion on that.
Okay, I can start talking. I reviewed the plan, and initially it looked like the elevations were wrong on one of the test pits through the groundwater level off. But then I was later explained that that test pit was under a certain amount of fill since it was taken. I got the information on the original test pits, and it turns out that they're for the the original design, and there were no new ones taken. So that's kind of the issue. I looked at them, and it doesn't seem like they're in the they're not located in the same place on the new plan as they were on the old plan, and I'm just pretty uncomfortable with those tests. So I'm not sure how we want to proceed with this. I mean, typically I would ask for current information.
Can I chime in here real quick?
Sure.
Is the only records of the pits is that like what I gave you? Because is there any other like proof of where it would be? Because it got approved. I mean, wherever it is, it's good, but I just didn't. This whole thing is very confusing for me, so I'm glad Mark popped
Sure.
into it.
If I can weigh in on the genesis of the plan, I was contacted by Brian's slated installer, Mark Dimmick, who asked me quite bluntly, can we just go in and put in the reserve area that was shown on the original plan? I stated that I wouldn't do that because there have been some changes to the code since 1998, when apparently that plan was approved and the system installed, and presumably signed off by the Board of Health, or no one would be in the house at this point in time. So I said what made sense to do was certainly it appears that the reserve area was designated adjacent to the existing leaching area, which the owner said is slow draining at this point, especially in the springtime. And I said it makes sense to make sure that the elevations of that reserve area match what you have installed, especially if you're going to use, excuse me, the existing septic tank. So I said I would go ahead and do a repair plan on the basis of not just replacing the distribution box, but the entire leaching area. And in the process of preparing for that, obviously did an updated current topographic survey and did enough shots around the area of work to be able to determine where we were in relation to the apparent topography of the original plan. I find through my many years of doing repair plans that the best place to set the new topography is related to the sill of the house, which is obviously a permanent benchmark that's not going anywhere, and all the plumbing and all the elevations of any components of the existing system that you still plan on using. You can relate all the elevations relatively well to that. Helps the installer rather than setting some arbitrary benchmark. And that's why we have everything reoriented to the existing sill elevation of the house at 100. So I use the extrapolated or interpolated, depending on exactly where we were, the elevations of the original test pits and came up with the elevations for them at the time, at the surface elevations of those test pits at the time that the original plan was developed. And that's why it appears that there's this fill over those locations, because there is. I mean, you can look at the site as evidenced by the fill around the house, is retaining wall there, and then either side toward the driveway and toward the neighbor's house where there's mature trees at the base of the slope. There's about somewhere in the area of the proposed replacement leach field, about 2.5 to 2 to 3.5 feet of fill. Probably 2 on the lower corner and probably 3.5 at the upper corner. And that's why if you look at the plan, you have existing topography as it sits today, and then you have surface elevations called out on the test pits. What I've come up with at the time before the existing septic system was put in and that fill brought in, which stems, it's quite a bit of it actually, that runs from the house out to the existing leaching area. So that's how I came up with the test pits were, in my opinion, in proximity to the proposed replacement leach field. It apparently the reserve area was adjacent to the existing system that went in for all intents and purposes, and we're still creating a system in fill here. And no reason to believe that those water table elevations that were pre-existing are any higher than they were then. And I believe, policy generally is that you can use a reserve area if it was after 1995 and there were adequate testing performed and logged by the town, witnessed by a town's Board of Health at that time. Generally, that's been a policy that I've seen right along. So I wouldn't have even assumed that there was been a requirement here to do any
new soil evaluation.
Thank you, Mark, for explaining that.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, my observations on the two plans, I got an photograph of the original plan, and in looking at it, the locations of the test pits on the old plan don't match up to the locations of the test pits on the new plan, and you know, I'm just a bit uncomfortable with it. It also looks like the house is located in a totally different location. It's up on the hill further back. And there's very little to go by to understand exactly where, you know, where the old system was, where the deep holes were conducted. So I'm a bit uncomfortable. And, you know, today's regulations require, you know, for a repair, require, you know, 2 deep holes in one perk within the area of the reserve, or, you know, the new bed, and it doesn't look like that's what's going on. I'm not against reusing the old data, but I am a bit nervous about it. You know, I mean, for one thing, the old system was designed based on this soil information, and it's no longer working. You know, does that have to do with the soil data, or is it, you know, some other thing? I don't know, because I haven't seen any information on what's wrong with the old system. So I mean, there's a number of reasons for me to, you know, not.
Well, I can say when the homeowner sold me the house, you know, we had a lot of questions about the septic. It was our first house, so we were trying to figure our way through it. And he had told me, I didn't know what I was talking about then, but he's like, no, it's great, it's fine. We've never even pumped it. We never had a problem. So after learning about this, I'm wondering if he did not take care of it the way he should have, and that was the cause of the failure.
Well, it very well could be.
Yep. So that's all.
It sounds, you know, I mean, if you look at the system,
okay, so,
I get the plan, but
so
yeah, if he hadn't pumped it in 22 years,
it's probably,
you know, yeah, no, I'm looking at the plan, but I'm not going to sit here and read all the notes, but it probably says on there, like they all do, that you should pump it every other year or something like that. And, you know, you can get away with every 4 years, depending on how many people are living there.
Yeah.
But 22 years is probably not a good sign.
But I don't know. The guy that lived here, he was a bit crazy. So I don't know if I actually
Title
believe
V results of that before you purchased the home.
Well, it must have passed, right? We never asked for them.
Well, that's something you can't assume. That's something that you should have had done. I would have expected your legal representation to.
Yeah, I believe everything was fine. I mean, we had representation for us when we were buying the house. So.
Did you go through a bank for it?
What's that? Yeah, it was.
Did you go through a bank?
It qualified.
You got a mortgage and all?
It qualified for an FHA loan.
Okay. So, I mean, I just asked that because typically the banks are the ones that make sure that.
Yeah,
you know,
and especially for an FHA loan, they're super, super strict on everything because that's a big risk for them. So they cross their T's and dot their I's. I'm sure of that.
Yeah. So.
It doesn't surprise me.
Did you have it pumped?
Oh yeah, ever since we moved in, we pump it.
Yeah. How long have you had it? How long have you owned it?
We moved in 2008.
Oh, okay. So you've been there quite a while.
Yep.
Oh, all right. So it wasn't pumped in 10 years. It could
10 years.
probably handle that, you know.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. But I'm just saying, if he said that, who knows what he flushed down the toilet and how he took care of it, you know? So,
Right. Yeah, we don't have any information
anyway,
how many people were
regard-
there or anything else.
yeah. So I mean, the reasons why it failed, I don't know. But,
So, I mean, the facts we know, right? The system has issues. It needs repair. The deep hole and the pits
Yeah.
essentially don't match to the plan.
it's
And
not wet now. It hasn't been wet really all summer. But I know I'm just trying to get ahead of it. And
yeah,
this is-
understood.
It's turning into something I don't want to get ahead of here.
So, other questions from the board or board
I mean,
members about?
what do I need to do? I don't know. I don't know this process. I mean,
Well, so that's what we're here to decide. What I'm trying to do is find out if the board members have any other questions, and then.
oh, sorry. I thought you were
No,
talking
that's
to me.
fine. That's fine.
Okay.
And figure out, kind of for a general consensus, some discussion about the item amongst the board, and then, we rely on Matt as our expert. Typically, if he's not comfortable with something, we're more likely to lean in that direction and say maybe we need to redo these test beds. So I want to hear from the board members and give them a chance to speak, and then we'll go from there.
Could I make one more point before you do that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Regarding the location of the test pits, I just, when you see a design plan, I mean, obviously we all benefit at this point when an as-built is done, because it gives you a picture of exactly how things went in. Why there isn't one for this location, I guess none of us can answer it at this point. I don't know if any of you were around in 1998 or 1999 in this capacity at that point, but I myself have no reason to believe, because there's no as-built, that the installer would have installed the current leach field in a location other than where the test pits were performed. So my locationing of them is in part not only looking at the design plan, but in looking at where the existing leach field is as well. It makes sense that the test pits wouldn't be far from that existing leach field. So I just want to put that out there. Best available information leads me to believe that, because there's no information to the contrary, that the leach field that was installed and apparently signed off by the town at that point in time was in the area it was supposed to be, and that would have been where the test pitting and perk tests were performed.
Well,
So-
my comment is that
Go ahead.
we've had several issues in the Geordie, North and South Dogwood areas over the years, and this may be one of the first that we've heard on the Board of Health in reference to septic systems. But there were some issues down there and things that were done down there that would lead me to believe just the opposite of what you're mentioning, Mark, simply because of some of the incidents we've had, that I don't have any confidence at all with what went on down there in the construction of those homes. And, a lot of people took it on the chin with a lot of different transfers down there and building and issues with representation that the Geordie, Dogwoods areas were all public ways when they were not public ways. There was a lot of misrepresentation. So I would go along with the idea of what Matt is saying, that this just doesn't make for good policy if we know that we have a bad problem with a system in fill. It just seems logical that something needs to be done in a more appropriate way. So I would go along with what Matt recommended in terms of a re-perk and a new system down there. I think that's, believe it or not, that's the easiest and cleanest way to do it, so there's no future problems.
I'd like to make another comment. as an engineer, does quite a bit of work in Hubbardston. I think that should be made a clear policy townwide then at this point, that just because there's been some documented test bits, perk tests, soil evaluation performed, if there's a system that is being repaired or upgraded, then I think everybody, because no one has the public knowledge of what you just said, Vin. So it's fair to everyone that they incur the extra time and expense to evenly to have to go through this process from scratch if there's that much question about areas in town having had the proper work and documentation done in the past through the Board of Health.
I agree. I think you're right. Well, it's the only way to proceed in this day and age.
Yeah, actually, I have to agree as well. I think in the time that I've been working for the Board of Health, I don't think I've ever seen a reserve area be utilized without without further work. And typically it's always been the system's old enough and the information is old enough that Title V has been revised since then. And particularly if you start to wonder if the reason the system failed was because of the soil data, maybe it wasn't quite accurate. I think in this case, the most important issue would be, we have two good perk tests right in the area. I think mostly it's an issue of, what are the site conditions? Where is the groundwater? I don't see that, maybe we can just, I don't know. By the time you're doing a deep hole, you might as well do a perk test. It only takes a little bit longer to do. That would certainly, in the eyes of the DEP, look most appropriate. And, if we're going to require, if we want a bylaw that says, formalizes that we need a, new subsurface information for repair, I don't think that's going to be too much of a burden for most people, because most of the time that's how it gets done anyway.
I would actually agree. I think that overall, it's not going to hurt to bring things up to the most recent code and make sure that we're meeting the spirit of the current, and making sure that whether or not the plans align from the historical data or not, that we're actually getting the lay of the land with the current system and making sure that the current system is up to code. Colleen, Judy, anybody else have anything to add? Ben?
Well, I would also say that in the long run, it's going to behoove the homeowner. It's going to not only maintain his value, but it's going to guarantee that he can continue with the value that's going to be able to pass on to the next owner that he sells it to. It's just common sense. You have to have a good septic system, because maybe the next buyer is going to come in and ask for a Title V, and if that fails at that point, you're not going to sell your house till you do this. It's never going to be any cheaper than it is today to get it done.
All right. So, any more discussion?
So the consensus is I need to do 1 or 2 deep holes.
I believe, based on Matt's recommendation, it's for 2 and a perk.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the minimum per area. If you're doing a new system, it would be, twice that. But yeah, 2 deep holes and 1 perk.
No, that's fine. I'd need to know what to tell the builder there.
From the board's perspective, Mark, I agree. If we're going to do this, we're going to do it consistently. I would like the chair present. When we do make new bylaws, anything that we pass as a bylaw requirement under the Board of Health that is impactful to Title V and or, you know, anything having to do with DEP, we actually have to submit it and make sure that it meets the letter and give it some consideration. But when we do write that and address it under the board, we can invite you guys back if you'd like to know how we're going to structure the motion and the bylaw, since it affects both of you and your business. You're welcome to come back. We'll let you know when on the next meeting if we do that. We'll put together the bylaw and present it, and of course Matt will advise.
Well, I don't think we need to go to the extent of a bylaw. I think a policy.
Correct, but in any event,
No.
policy, however we want to structure it.
If there's what we're going to decide, a bylaw would have to be presented to the town at the general meeting. So I think a policy would be sufficient. That way, people who do business with the Board of Health would have the policy and conform to that.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah, Vinny, you're right. I mean, right in Title V, 15.102, it gives the approving authority the right to require, you know, as many tests as they want. You know, I mean, within reason, but you know, you already have the authority to require this. So if you have a policy that you know lays it out for everyone, then you know more the better.
Yeah. We also have existing process documents too, Mallory, right, on the overall workflow and process that we'd have to update for the town.
Yeah, if you guys are looking at some policy changes, I would absolutely like to weigh in along similar lines of repair and then going into upgrade. One item, while I have 2 more seconds with you guys, is there've been some instances in the last year where folks have decided they needed to upgrade their system, repair it, and trying to tie it in with an expansion of building footprint or occupancy capacity. I've had the unfortunate, been in the unfortunate position of being asked to do a plan after soil evaluations were performed and supposedly adequate numbers of test bits and perk tests were performed in order to go ahead and do a design plan to incorporate both the repair, upgrade, and expansion, only to have the plan get bounced back because it was a determination by the agent that there weren't enough holes performed. I think that needs to be clarified, certainly at the time that the applicants are applying for a soil evaluation, and that the board is witnessing these tests and basically leaving saying we've got enough holes to characterize the area. That's certainly something I think needs some attention at the same time.
Makes sense, right?
It's kind of pitting Matt and I against each other. And we're not there in the first stage, so it doesn't need to happen.
Right. Well, you know, I mean, it's right there in Title V. You know, if you're going to add a bedroom or something like that, then it's not a repair anymore. And if people go in saying I'm doing a repair, and then they want to do that, that's where you bump into that issue, typically. So, you know, it's kind of up to the applicant. If they don't have an engineer on board at that time, it's their decision making, and if they make the wrong one, well, it's on them. You know, but I know it's always hard. It's like getting out there and doing the field work is expensive, you know, and it costs the same amount of money to do it right as it does to do it wrong, and it's a hardship to go back and do it over. I know that. So we're not against each other on that. We're both trying to make it work. But
Yeah, I was just told that since I had a designated area that it would be easy, and then it didn't. So I apologize for any frustration on my end. I thank you guys for all your work. I know it was a lot. So, all right. So we just do the 2 deep holes, the perk test, and then Mallory, will you send me like all the contact info I need to get a hold of you guys when that's ready?
Absolutely.
Cool. Yeah.
And of course, Mark, you'll have to update the plans with that information. Make sure it works.
Yeah, no problem.
Cool.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
When we do that review, we'll invite you both back. And there are a couple other things I'm going to throw in that agenda when we invite you back for that meeting. Because we've, as a board, talked about what our process is for inspections and how to improve on that, make it not only the guidelines more transparent so that when people apply, it's clear, because I agree that's a problem. It's a difficult problem because sometimes you don't know what you don't know until you know, right? But I think if we look at it from that perspective, and then also, you know, talk about as a town and as a board, how we want to manage inspections on the go forward, along with, you know, conversations we've had internally about training and our own guidelines in terms of what it is and should be required from a board member in terms of knowledge to be able to do those inspections on behalf of the town versus outsourcing that to an inspector who would act on behalf of the board independently of any engineer and do the inspections for the town. So those are topics that we need to discuss, I guess, at a future date, but we'll definitely invite you guys back for that and appreciate it. Appreciate your insight and information.
Okay.
Terrific.
All right.
I'd just like to conclude with one comment that I think is going to be beneficial to everybody in town. And we may be at the point where we need to access the digital age with all our documents. It's, you know, the filing system in the town of Hubbardston would be a compliment to say it's obsolete. So I think we need to start working towards some type of digital storage with everything we have.
Then Ryan's working on that.
Oh, good news.
Mm-hmm.
Also looking at some online permitting for the Board of Health and other departments as well to avoid all the paperwork and the missed files and all that good stuff. So we're moving forward towards that.
I know there's a bottom drawer somewhere with all these missing files.
Well, on that same subject, let me dive in there. On that same subject, I'm cleaning out my attic, and I have all the plans that I ever reviewed and inspected, and I'm getting ready to toss them. I was going to ask you guys if you wanted to go through them before I do.
Now, yeah, why don't you bring them into the office and I can have one of our senior workers just file them away.
Yeah,
It doesn't
it's
hurt to have so many
25 years.
Woo!
Yeah.
That's worth
Well,
it.
bring in whatever you want. We'll get them filed away for you.
Right.
Hey,
Yeah,
check
that'd
this
be
out,
great.
mine house.
And yeah, and you know what? If you've got if you start requiring electronic copies, scans or something like that, that'll be great because I'm going to retire in about a year and a half, and I'm probably going to spend my summers up in Maine, so I can keep doing it if it's electronic.
There we go.
You know. So anyway, yeah. Welcome to the space age.
You guys are funny. All right.
Okay, so I think I'm done. Anything else that you need me for?
I don't think so.
Oh, thank you very much,
All
gentlemen.
right then.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Brian.
Yep, I'm gonna ring off. Bye-bye.
Bye, Matt.
Yep.
All right. And,
Okay, so I think we're all set now. Do you guys need,
Yep.
like, for planning, like, do you have to, like, see the holes dug, or can I get them done and then call you? I just want to make sure it's done right.
Yeah, so what you're going to do, Brian, is you're going to apply for a perk test. And you're
Yep.
going to have all your activators and all their information on there. And they're going to walk you through that all. And what they'll do is they'll schedule an appointment with Kathy so that we can witness all of that.
Okay, cool. Will you
Okay,
email
so-
that to me, or is that something I have to pick up?
It's online if you want to get a jump start on it tonight, but I can definitely email it to you first thing in the morning.
Oh, no. Yeah, I can look it up online. No worries.
Okay. If you have any questions, just shoot me an email. But if you can't find it or whatever, I'll definitely email it in the morning when I'm back in the office.
All right. Once again, thank you guys for all your time.
Take care, Brian.
You're welcome.
Kathy has joined. Kathy, we went through one item discussion of Geordie
That
Lane,
sounds fine.
and we're gonna move on to Rieta.
Yes,
So
I heard
Raylene,
most of it.
we'll catch you up. Raylene is here from Rieta for the next item on the agenda.
John's here too.
Hi
John
there.
too.
I only know her name. It was the only one that came up on my list. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
All right.
So I have real concerns with how many people are at the activity with the governor's new restriction on outdoor activities. And I was hoping that we could put on your shoulders, just contact the state to reaffirm that what you're doing is still okay. That's really all we're looking for.
Okay, so we're looking at the, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I have an update on that. The the Board of Health conference at 3:00 this afternoon. Actually, they addressed that question, and they said you function under whatever your vector is. So sports people will function under the sports rules. Retail businesses will function under retail businesses. Restaurants will function under their set of rules. So it didn't sound like this new order from the governor was going to affect whole lot of folks that are already regulated out, like businesses and restaurants, etc. It sounded like it was more directed at gatherings like such as they've been having down on the Cape. So it's probably just throws more mud on all of this, but that's what was said at 3:00 this afternoon.
Right.
That's exactly what I got from it too.
Well, yeah, we're looking at the directive here. The second part of item 3 is really specifically says that the order does not impose the general capacity limitation on us. Basically, what it's saying. I mean, that's the way we're reading it.
Right. It says that the limitations apply anybody not exempted by sections 1 and 2.
Mhm.
Sections 1 and 2, you're not a political expression or religious activity, although flea marketing can be
Well,
considered
it could be.
religious for
Yeah.
some people.
Some days I feel like it. Yeah.
But you know,
Well, with the clarification at 3:00 this afternoon, that kind of changes this whole subject.
right.
Yeah.
Makes it kind of a moot point.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, essentially
That's
you're a
why I
retail
had
establishment.
asked to have you guys come.
That's okay. We don't mind. We don't mind the
What-
questioning. We were just wondering if, I mean, I thought maybe that someone had visited us. I don't think I've seen anybody there. In the 9 weeks we've been open, I thought maybe someone had visited us and had some questions, about the operation.
Well, one of the things they did say is and we've talked about that for the yard sale that's coming up for the seniors and all. I totally agree with what we had discussed for the yard sales. Is make sure that there's 6 to 10 feet between each vendor.
Sure. Yeah.
Make sure that they have that the vendors themselves have hand sanitizer at their tables.
Mhm.
Lots and lots of signs everywhere. That was brought up, and of course you're going to be diminished on what you can have for the number of tables just because you're spacing everybody so far apart.
Well, ours are generally spaced 20 feet apart. Everyone gets 20 feet by 13 feet anyways, between vendors.
What about the building? That would be my concern.
The building is so very sparse in there. These people are more than enough distance between them.
Right, we only have 5
We only have
vendors
5 vendors
in the
whole
barn. The dining room is closed.
dining room and the bar outside. Everything's been closed since the beginning. We never did open the inside dining room.
Okay.
We're serving food from outside and that's it.
Right, I was aware of that. I was just concerned with his new numbers, and it looks like it's not that an issue for you guys. So
Right.
I kind of say thank you for joining us, but I don't think we have to do anything. I
Okay.
was worried that we were going to have to ask you to contact the state. But
Okay.
All right.
3:00, it's pretty clear from that clarification that you're still okay.
Yep.
Okay, sounds good.
One thing I would add is, one thing they did say is like, it shouldn't be the clerks or your employees that would remind folks about wearing a mask and all that. It really falls on the managers.
Yeah, and we not only do we have signs, but Ray Lee makes a couple of announcements down the morning, thanking people for wearing them, advising them that the reason we are open is because people are participating. And I have to say that there's a very, 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 very small number of people that don't wear a mask in this place.
Yeah, they've been excellent.
I'm just impressed with the way that people are handling this whole
Great.
thing. Been good. They've been great.
Very good.
Anything we can do for you? Give us a holler.
All right. Thank you both.
All right, have a good night.
Thanks. Have a good night.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us.
Okay,
You're welcome.
Okay. All right. So moving back to the top of the agenda. We do not have minutes for tonight, so we're going to review minutes in double tomorrow, the next meeting. So we're moving into COVID-19 updates. Soccer?
Yeah, Kathy had asked about the bandanas, and so I just tossed that on here with Rieta Ranch.
I got an email back this afternoon. Did you get one also, Mallory?
No. Was it from Jesse?
Yes, it was really giving us the list of teams and stuff.
I didn't get that.
Okay. So they have given us a list of all the teams and stuff, and they're going to have each coach record at each game who's in attendance so that we have, if there's a problem, we can do quick contacting and go through that whole procedure. The players were not going to be wearing masks, but I did ask them if they would consider wearing bandanas, which offer a little bit of protection. It's not much, according to the most recent information that came out this morning on the television, but it does offer some help, and I do think it's probably beneficial, because when you start moving around and get close to each other, I do think they should have something. So that would be my only request, that they do that, is wear bandanas, because they are pretty breathable.
Yeah, I saw that article too about, this is something they call it the gate or bait or something like that. It's,
Oh, like gators.
yeah, it goes around your neck. Those are totally useless, they said. They don't offer any protection whatsoever. But I agree with Kathy that, we need to, I would prefer that they were wearing some sort of mask, even if it's a lightweight cotton mask, but make it a mask. It is a moderate risk when they're got contact sports like that.
So that's the only thing that I will put forward to them, that we're going to ask them to please wear bandanas, cotton bandanas, to give them some minimal protection, yet be able to breathe easily. And it has to be a bandana, not one of the neck pull-ups.
Also make the distinction for the coaches and participants, from the coaches and participants, that if the kids can wear bandanas, that doesn't give the coaches or sideline personnel or attendees the option of wearing.
No, they have to still, right, they still have to wear masks.
Mhm.
That is part of their plan, but they weren't going to have the players use
Right.
anything. And this is in addition to what they have in their current plan.
So we're recommending the revision to their plan to include masks or bandanas for the players.
Right.
Okay. Anything
That's
else?
it.
Whose responsibility is it on the board to respond back to them on that? Kathy, are you going to contact them directly, or
Yes,
Mallory?
I've been CCing Mallory on every email so that there's a record at the Board of Health of everything that's going on. But yes, I've been replying back to them directly otherwise.
Okay. Any other discussion on the soccer piece? Teams, leagues? What are they? Soccer groups?
It's a league.
Thank you.
It's a league in this case.
Can you tell I'm not a sports person? Can anybody else tell that? I'm just checking.
I'm right with you.
We've spoken with Rieta. So the school.
Yeah,
Workshop.
so we got that request from the school to meet with them, and I just didn't know if anyone attended or if they had reached out further to anyone else. I haven't gotten anything from the school, so just my own
Yes.
curiosity.
I attended the meeting. There's going to be another virtual meeting probably tomorrow.
No, Thursday at 2.
It's Thursday now?
Yeah.
They moved it again?
Yes.
That's what it was last week.
Yeah, they moved it again.
Okay. Okay. I did participate in last week's meeting, and they are really just talking through methodology of how to keep the kids separated in the hallways, at the various buildings, how to go about teaching the kids proper masking, including the little ones, and all. Really, it's all techniques that they're working on and finalizing.
Great.
The other participants were 2 school nurses from 2 different schools. A Maven nurse who is also has, I think it's a daughter that's in the high school, and he's, I think, representing Barry. So there was 6 of us all together. And I guess I'm representing Hubbardston, so.
I'll be on it on Thursday because I'm the Maven nurse for New Braintree and Barry.
Okay, so it wasn't you that was the nurse. He's covering a different area, I guess.
Yeah, probably Ocam.
Chris, I think his name was Chris, I believe. So yes, we are going through that with a follow-up meeting.
Awesome.
Well, at this point, it's still too late to post the meeting. So I guess Kathy, we should just acknowledge that you'll be our representative to that group.
Yep.
Yep, thank you.
I think this is one of those things where they've asked for Board of Health input just because there's so many pieces to it.
There are
So,
a lot of pieces.
Yeah.
And they really do want to protect the kids. So I'm after participating, I'm pretty optimistic.
Yeah, and watching the governor's update today on the news, he actually said very specifically that in communities like ours with low infection rates, with low transmission rates, that schools should reopen safely, and it just should be a communication with the boards of health, local school officials, experts, and just move forward. So, we'll listen anything you bring back from the meeting in terms of, questions and comments, and try to support them as best we can. Any other discussion on the school reopening meetings before we move on? All right, hearing none. Where are we at? Next topic is ongoing issues. 10 Main Street.
Well, I think the owners now are on vacation, but the last time we met, we were talking about different ways of how we could handle it and move forward. And what I did was include a copy of from the Board of Health handbook, and just kind of goes over, what the Board of Health has in our corner. So the enforcement orders that need to be written. I don't think 10 Main Street has ever received an official enforcement order. And then we also have the non-criminal disposition to take the owners to court. Well, not take the owners to court, I'm sorry, to assess fees and fines to the owners for not complying with our orders. And then if the fees and fines are not paid, then we would have to take it to court.
Did we not
So I
just
kind of put-
to send them a letter, Mel?
I don't think we've sent letters, but we've never given them an official enforcement order.
No, I could have sworn in the meeting, like 2 meetings ago, 3 meetings ago, we actually outlined a letter
Yep.
with a 10-day turnaround time, and the
We
assessment
haven't
of
gotten
fines.
that green card back yet. So I don't
So-
know if it's sitting in a mailbox somewhere or because it is a PO box. We haven't gotten a green card back yet. And when I'm going through the file, I'm not seeing a lot of, there's just emails.
Yeah.
There's no actual, we have the failed Title V, we have a plan that someone went out at some point, spent the money to have Mark do all the testing, to drop a new plan, and then it just went, and it,
Right.
and so Kathy and I went and visited the site last
Thursday.
Thursday. So if you want to go over that, Kathy, you can.
So I took some pictures. One of the renters was there, and we just explained that we were just looking over the property because it, needs a new septic system. The backyard and everything looked fine. There was no sewage coming out. He confirmed that it is being pumped regularly, even though we don't have reports back from the pumping company. So, Mallory, if you could actually call them.
Yeah, I have, but we haven't gotten anything from them for a while, so I'm wondering if they're just putting together a bulk. Oh, we haven't done it in a while, but I can definitely reach out again.
But the property itself looked like it was okay, and we went back all the way around and into the bushes in the back as well, and it seemed fine.
Yeah. When you hear the bubbling septic on the emails that went out, I think you get a visual in your head, and there definitely wasn't any of the visual that you get in your head that day.
Right. But we're also in a drought year where the water table could be low, and there are other things
Right.
that would affect it.
Right.
So I'd love to find the green card in the last letter and take the next steps based on,
Yeah.
issuing an official order and, giving them a firm deadline to respond and come before the board with a plan.
Yep. And I know.
That we do that.
Well, I'll make the motion that we adopt a policy, or not adopt a policy, but we send them an official enforcement order that would go out as soon as Mallory can compose it and have Kathy review it so that it starts the ball rolling. I mean, the discussions, I think, are now over. I don't think anybody's in disagreement that we need to do something, but they have to do something. And I'm more than happy to have them come in and, talk up to us about loans and everything else, but we just have to get some activity down there.
I agree. I don't know why an enforcement order wasn't written a long time ago, but I can definitely, you have to cite code and all that good stuff. So I will draft one and get working on that and get it over to you, Kathy, to review.
You got it. Let me know. I'll come sign it.
Okay.
So there's a motion by Vin to send an enforcement order, or to write an enforcement order to be sent after review by the chair. Do we have a second on the motion?
Well, I second it.
All right. From the top, Kathy,
Yes.
Colleen,
Yes.
Vin,
Yes?
Judy,
Yes.
and Kate's a yes. Make it so, Mel. Make it so.
You got it. I love writing those orders. I love code. Code.
The items in bold, so we have MPH and nursing report. I'm assuming we have no updated report since it's in bold with no content.
Yep, nothing new I haven't heard from our nurse. We did have one active case of COVID in Hubbardston, and I only had to get in contact with her because our case jumped ship off of the report that's sent out every morning telling us who's for local law enforcement for the police and fire. And I just needed to confirm with her that it was still an active case, and she got it back on the report for us. So we're good to go.
Okay. Any questions from the board on the MPHN nursing report update? All right, hearing none, moving on to pass Title V, of which there are none. Permits, items to be voted on, none. Open inspections, plans and review. First one.
Yeah, so these really haven't changed since our last meeting. I haven't gotten any new plans. I know 7 Moosehorn Hill has started moving forward because Kathy did the bed bottom inspection. And we have 31 Jordan Lane who came forward this afternoon. But all of the parks I have not gotten anything new on. And the same with the other 7 I haven't gotten anything new on either.
Okay. And we just got the update on 31 Jordan Lane. Does anybody on the board have questions for any of the properties listed under inspections, plans and review, or parks?
87 Hale, Moosehead Circle is almost finished.
Oh, Kathy, you froze.
And no, Kathy was out at 7 Moosehorn yesterday to do bed bottom, and I think she was saying 87 Hill Road is almost done. I think she's been out there a few times,
Okay.
in case we don't get her back.
I'm gonna send her a text. Okay. Give Kathy a second. While we give Kathy a second, do you guys mind if we move on to open complaints? Yep.
So Kathy did a drive-by to 10 Mount Jefferson.
Mm-hmm.
When she was there was a vehicle in the parking lot or in the driveway. She took a copy of our picture, and we were able to run the plate and get some updated information. Just in case we don't remember, this was an abandoned house that the assessors kind of asked us to take a look at. There was some broken windows, stuff like that. They didn't feel like it was secure, and they had deemed it vacant. So Kathy did her drive-by, and it looks like the updates have been done already. And I got an email from the owner this afternoon stating he's looking to move forward with a perk test and maybe updating his system. So it looks like it's no longer vacant. Whoever did the damage or whatever damage was there has been repaired, and they've actually done a little bit more repair work than they should have. So the building department is now involved in trying to get those permits taken care of for them.
Got it. Well, that's a bit of good news.
We don't want vacant houses, so.
Right. There were other complaints you sent emails about, Mallory?
Yeah, so I got, those all came through today. So I got a complaint in regard to some flies on Williamsville, and it sounds like that is stemming from the hen house. So the hen house is a USDA facility. It's inspected by the state. I sent off an email to Trevor at the Mass Agricultural Department. I have not heard back yet, but that would be something that the state is probably going to be stepping into opposed to the local Board of Health because we don't inspect that facility. Yep. Thank you, Judy, for triggering my memory on that.
And you responded to the complainant, letting them know?
Yeah.
Okay. And then there was another complaint on, I don't recall.
Oh, the electronics?
Yeah, and that got resolved on its own. Somebody.
Yeah. So we don't know who cleaned that up, but it's gone and it's cleaned up.
Pond West was the other one, I think.
Yeah, we got one today on, well, that's been an ongoing issue between the two neighbors. So I have been working this on the Concom side. Number 20 is a new build cabin, and it looks like when the cabin was built, the driveway was placed on the abutting neighbor's property, erosion controls, all that good stuff were placed on the abutting neighbor's property. This has turned into a neighbor feud. So I've been working with Mass DEP, Mass DCR, The Conservation Commission is actually issuing a cease and desist on the property until the erosion controls are taken care of and put in place. So we got a complaint today from 20 Comet Ponds in regards to 18 Comet Ponds doing some things like washing dishes in the pond. And we are in contact, and I did forward the email to Alan Rentella from DCR, who he's been working with me on the Conscom side of it. And they also have control of the pond. So I've been working with him. I couldn't find a permit for the composting toilet that she spoke of, but it sounds like there's a porta potty on site now. I'm not too sure of the regulations as far as setbacks or any of that on porta potties on site at the residence, but I kind of was expecting this email to come through because there's been a lot of back and forth, he said, she said, between the two of them. So we're just trying to figure out what's fact. And our building commissioner went out, our building inspector went out, took a look at the deck rails that she was worried about, and she wasn't concerned. So I don't know if someone from Board of Health wants to go do a site inspection. It sounds like the composting toilet is no longer in use, or sink isn't in use. But yeah, that's the other one we got.
And who encroached on who with the driveway?
20 encroached on 18.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 18 has been established for quite some time. 20 just got a building permit in 2018 for a new cabin. So I'm going to say about 50% of my day was consumed by this. Dealing with Kim Roth from Mass DEP, Alan from DCR, just trying to figure out the what and the who and the where.
Gotcha.
But I don't know if, like I said, I know DCR is going to get involved as far as the washing of the dishes. And I'm sure if there's any issues with gray water being run off into the lake, they would definitely let us know.
Yeah.
If someone wants to do a drive-by or do a site inspection.
I mean, I think a site inspection would be appropriate in this case. You have any volunteers? Go with the team.
Kate, just let me clarify. So number 18 is the one that doesn't have the facility, the sanitary facility. And that, I assume, has been there a long time, so it was probably grandfathered in.
Yeah, and the Comet Ponds have their own set of rules. And, like, I know Pinecrest had some set of rules. So I have a copy of the bylaws.
Who has their own set of rules?
I don't know if they do or not.
I'm sorry, would you repeat it? I didn't catch who you said.
Sorry. I have a copy. I don't know if the cabins around Comet Pond, if they have their own set of bylaws or not, that dictate certain things. But I know Pinecrest does. I have a copy of Pinecrest's bylaws. But I don't know about Comet Pond.
No, there's none of those. I know.
They don't have an association or anything.
No. But they have undersized lots. And
right.
I'm pretty sure that that's been there a long time and probably doesn't have enough area for a septic anyway. But
right, their lots have specific nitro loading. Their lots have to meet special nitro loading qualifications before you can put in a septic. So that's why a lot of them don't have a septic. I'm assuming there's a lot of compostable toilets up there. But I just couldn't find a permit for this one, so I don't know how long it's there. It doesn't sound like it's being used because there's a porta potty. But
Gotcha. Well, anybody else have?
I'll volunteer to go. I mean, I don't do much else, but I mean, I'd love to volunteer and go if somebody else is going to go.
If you need someone to go with you, I would be to go with you. I just can't do this Thursday or next Thursday, but
I can't. You're cutting it, Mallory.
Friday, I'd be happy to accompany anybody, but I may not be back until Saturday. But I'm back on Thursday. My prescription drugs run out. I'll have to come back and renew everything. So But I'm anticipating being back in town. I just don't know when. But I'd be happy to let you know if I'm back on Thursday.
I was saying I don't know what your schedule looks like, but this Thursday and next Thursday I'm not going to be available for inspections. So if you just want to shoot me an email, we can coordinate. I can do Friday if needed.
Colleen, does that work for you?
So she's kind of cutting out. I didn't really understand what she said. When do you?
Mallory said she's not available this Thursday or next Thursday, but she's available
Okay.
potentially on Friday. And if you want to email her and coordinate a time and day, Vin said he may
Okay.
be back on Thursday or Saturday.
Okay. Well, I'll email Mallory. I do have an appointment early Friday morning, but we wouldn't be going out that early, I'm sure.
Okay. And your internet is slowing
I'd be
down.
back home at 9.
So Colleen, you're cutting out as well. You might want to shut your camera off, but just keep connected.
Okay.
Did everybody get all that? We're good.
Yes.
All right, just checking. I'm like, is everybody? Oh, the technical difficulties kill me. All right, so we have a plan for Comet Pond. I'm jumping back to the agenda. Forgive me for the jump. So we've handled open complaints. Moving on to old business. Food inspections, I have not done additional ones, nor have I had the chance to make any phone calls. I've been kind of flat out.
I think we all have.
Yeah, I know. So I will call the remaining folks that are predominantly residential, and my plan was to find out if they're, functionally running their business at the moment or not, and then plan the inspections accordingly. And I will commit to doing that for the next meeting come tornadoes and storms and wind. Okay. Bella's report. We all got a copy of that.
Looked good.
Yeah, she had a busy weekend. Holy moly.
I wonder if the electronics ended up.
Nobody has any record of picking them up, so I don't know what the heck happened.
I know. Oh, so they do need it. She does mention that they need to recharge or replace the fire extinguisher. At the bottom of that report.
Yeah.
I make a motion. We give her approval to buy a new fire extinguisher, up to $100. You can get them for a lot less, but a pretty big one's going to be fairly expensive.
I'll second that.
Is that the type that needs to be recharged or actually buy a new one?
Yeah, I think she said we could recharge it. I know the town uses Fire Protect, so maybe we just have them come out, and he just came through our building, so I don't know if does he usually do the one down there?
Don't know.
Yeah. I'll see what she says. If it can be recharged, then I'll suggest, because we already have an open account with Fire Protect, to see if they can meet her to get that taken care of. If it needs to be purchased, then I can let her know.
That sounds great.
We're gonna get her a generator also?
Yes, there are a variety of models that run right around $500. Do we need to specify which model we get and all that in a motion, or because we don't really need a huge one down there?
I have no reference to generators at all. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't either. I've tried doing a
All
little bit of
right,
research, but
well,
it's not really clear to me.
I'll send out an email.
Kathy, you're breaking up again. Maybe
Probably
try shutting off your camera.
Thursday this week with a list of, okay,
That's
did that
we
help?
can hear you now. Yep. Yeah,
Okay.
shutting off the camera takes away some bandwidth and it helps.
Okay, so I will send out an email later this week to everyone with various models that are in that price range.
There was one that I saw like couple years ago when we were over in Templeton, and the CERT team over there had this little, it was Hyundai that, and it was just a little portable one, but boy, it had a lot of power to it, a lot of oomph to it. So, I mean, because they were doing all kinds of stuff off of it, and as part of their demonstration. So I don't know how much it costs or anything, but I was pretty impressed with the power that it had and how tiny it was. It was very portable.
Yes. The only part of that expense is that we would put a chain with a lock on it so it stays there in the building when we get one, and that's part of the cost that I'm looking at. So let me send you guys the email, and if you can just respond if that's okay or not. Is it okay if we do it that way?
Yeah, we
I think
can.
it's under the amount that we need an RFP for, so I would think we'd be okay doing it that way.
Yeah, we can
Thank
just review it
you.
and take a look at the results of the next meeting and make a recommendation or talk about it further with the information in front of us.
Okay.
And I know, Kathy, you'd started to make a motion about the old fire extinguisher, but we're just gonna ignore that
Yeah.
motion and move.
Ignore it, please.
Yep.
I withdraw it.
Yeah, withdraw it so that we can be official with our meeting minutes. And just, I looked up just quickly while we're talking, the cost to recharge typically is like $25 or $30 for an extinguisher through a plan like that through Protex. So hopefully that'll work. Any other questions about Bell's report or the recycle center? All right, hearing none, moving on to Casella update.
Oh, yep, Casella. I haven't heard back from either of them. I sent out the letters.
Okay. Questions, anyone? Comments,
I
concerns?
saw a sign for a new waste removal service in town. A couple of them along the Route 68. I'm wondering, did we get any new applications for licenses? Okay.
What was the name of it, Ben? Do you remember?
That's why I asked for the name. A sign is no good unless you can read it.
Yeah, I understand.
The only two words I could see was waste removal, and I couldn't read the name of the people that are on there or the phone numbers. And
Oh, a new trash hauler?
yeah, right, waste removal. So, I just wondered if somebody had come in a new application for a license. That's all. Not a problem.
No, we have the new building permit software, which in the building permit has like an actual spot to say who's getting a dumpster. I'm so excited to catch my first out of town unpermitted dumpster. Coming.
What did you do? You caught?
I said I'm waiting to catch my first unpermitted trash hauler. Coming, I can feel it.
Well, I think the hard thing about that, right, is that some of the dumpsters have been, because we've had so much consolidation amongst trash haulers over the last several years, not all of them have rebranded all of their dumpsters.
Right.
So the dumpster might say one thing, but actually be delivered by a company that is under wing. So I find it'll be interesting. Gotcha. We'll see what happens. All right, landfill updates is the next
I
item.
have not found anything in regards to the closure, but I did find an old filing cabinet that had some of our older records. So while I was having technical difficulties today, I started going through a lot of old food permits and stuff like that, but nothing in regards to the closure, which is we were looking for to see if there was any stipulations on the Hubbardston Board of Health in regards to it not being our land. So I don't have any fun updates, but we might be getting somewhere closer.
There you go. One step at a time. Any questions on the landfill updates or the information? All right, hearing none,
Well,
looking
if
at
we don't
shared.
find one,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, if we don't find one in our files, then we might have to request DCR to provide a copy. If hopefully there was an agreement in writing that they have kept if we don't have it.
Right.
And if there isn't, then that makes it even more interesting if there's no written agreement.
Next item, shared system, Title V update.
I've only gotten that one from last meeting. I haven't gotten any new copies of any new Title V, so hopefully that means it's generated some interest and people are getting them done. But the only one that I have gotten is the one from last meeting, and I can't remember the name off the top of my head. I apologize.
Are those the condominium shared systems? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And moving on to new business, unless anybody has anything to add to Title V updates. New business, first item is budget spreadsheet.
I haven't had anything to turn over in the last 2 weeks, except for Bella's stuff, which came in this afternoon, so I'll do that turnover first thing tomorrow morning. We haven't had any bills come in, and we haven't had any new applications, so right now tends to be our quiet time, usually, as far as getting new applications, so not unexpected as such.
Right. And the other item under new business is site plan for Curtis.
Yeah, so this is for 36 Gardner Road. Mr. Curtis is looking to put in a self-storage facility. So basically my understanding is that it's going to be just storage, no office, nothing like that. And the engineer had some questions in regards to septic, all that good stuff. Apparently, according to Roland and Ryan had some type of conversation in regards to if a well and a septic was needed. And I'm just trying to, and Roland was in contact with the engineer direct, so I haven't even spoken with him in regards to this. It says, Roland's comment in regards to septic was if there's no bathrooms, and this was from the plumbing inspector, well, if there's no portable water, no well, no bathrooms required. So it doesn't sound like there's going to be an office or anything here. It's literally just going to be storage. Here's your keys. Here's your storage unit. You'll have an access code, I'm assuming, to get into the facility.
I can't imagine having a store, any kind of a business that didn't have a toilet and a sink. I mean, somebody's got to work there to hand the keys out for, for.
We have a couple of them. We have at least one in Templeton where they have their main office, and then they have other mini units that come off of it. So basically, you go to your main office, you apply, you get your punch code so you have access, and I only know this because I have one. You get your punch code to get into the facility, and then you supply your own lock and key. But it has to be a specific brand or something that their bolt cutters can get through, I guess. So I have seen it happen before. I was a little surprised by it too, Colleen, but I'm thinking that he owns another facility and he's just looking to expand on the.
So this would be kind of like an annex to that.
That's what I'm kind of thinking. Yeah, I know that I haven't gotten back from Roland any feedback on it. But that's what I am assuming based on the conversations I've had with Roland and Mark and the plans that came forward. Just that he's looking to have storage units.
Okay.
Well, I did send it, the report that the Places Associates did for the planning board to you, Mallory. I don't know if you've ever.
I just sent it out before the meeting. I hadn't seen it before that.
It's an 11-page report that is not very impressed with the plan that has been submitted. Not that we have anything to say about that. They're addressing through the planning board some of those issues. But the focus that I would say is two things. Number one, I think it's preposterous not to have a system where there's going to be an office and employees without some type of septic and water. And quite frankly, I think that if we're going to have it done as other places in Hubbardston have proven in the past, now's the time to do it, because it'll never get done if they in fact decide they're going to have an office in a couple of years or whatnot. It's just.
Well, I agree with you, Vinny, because I've seen a lot of places that I don't think they start off in this way with, just an annex to another bigger place. But a lot of places, they land up having a small office and they sell moving boxes and, things like that. And then they're going to say, well, we want to do that. So now they have to have, a toilet and a sink because they're going to have somebody actually work there. But I agree with you that it could be something down the road that they might want to do. And it would probably be the time to actually do it now while they're building, before they build it.
And this is no annex building to anywhere else in town. This is
not in town, no.
It's like,
this is
so if somebody was there, they'd have to run to some other town to use the toilet? I mean, that just doesn't seem right. That doesn't sound right.
Or if there's an employee that's stationed there, or if customers need to use facilities. I mean, there are situations that do exist where you could make a good case for sanitary facilities. And my second comment was, what about hazardous wastes? Are they going to be allowed to be stored, and what are going to be stored? And if you put an automobile in one of these storage barns or garages, then you're going to need a drain, and that drain can't just go to anywhere. That has to have a dedicated receptacle to catch anything that may flow into it. So I think those are the two issues that I have with the plan. But I also noticed that in the reviewing, and when you folks get a chance to read it, they may have to resubmit the entire plan, and I haven't seen their environmental and community impact statement is also fairly weak. So they're not addressing much in that either.
Right.
The final thing I have is that if all of these are incomplete, then I don't think our 20-day review period should be starting now. I think we need to get an official start date before we end up missing the date and somebody saying, oh, it's a technicality, you can't submit any comments.
I think tentatively, Christina said this was scheduled for the 20th of September, I want to say. Not the 20th, but that week maybe. So if we want to, we can always invite the engineer and the applicant to our next meeting to discuss. But like Vince said, they're going back to the drawing board right now, it looks like.
Yeah,
where exactly is this? Where exactly is
right next to the pallet company, Judy. The empty lot next to the pallet company, to the north of the pallet.
That's the one that will not perk.
Well, it actually did.
It did pass a perk.
Oh, that's amazing, because when I was up there eons ago, and we dug a hole and we got 12 inches down in water came bubbling up. So, and we did that several times, so.
So the Hub Veterinary Clinic were interested in purchasing the land, and they paid to have a proper perk done, and the perk did pass. I witnessed it back over the winter. I agree with Vinny. I think, Mallory, it would be wise for us to send a letter to the planning board and to the applicant to indicate that we are concerned that they have not included an office and a bathroom and septic for that, and also proper drainage for if vehicles are stored in the units. And I also see that they have no plan for how to dispose of unpaid for units that still have materials in it. How are they going to get rid of that stuff? So I see three things that need to be addressed. And I think we need to send them a letter and the planning board saying that these are areas that they need to address before anything gets approved.
I think you're correct, Kathy. I'm not sure if well, we can CC the applicant, but it should be primarily addressed to the planning board at this point.
Yep.
But that would not include, I think those are preliminary comments, and I would not want to give up the 20-day review we have once they have.
Right.
Plan.
Make it clear that that does not, this is not part of the 20-day review. However, that should be worded.
The applicants are, I think they're resubmitting an entire plan to the planning board. So once the planning board gets the new plans and gets it over to their engineer, they would resubmit that to all of us.
That's correct. But Christina's note to us said we have 20 days to review this, and I think we're just qualifying the fact that we don't want to be held accountable to 20 days on an incomplete or a plan that's not real acceptable.
Yeah, and let the planning board know our areas of concern. You can put something together and email that to us, Mallory, so that we can make any additional comments and then get it over to the planning board this next week.
Sure. Also, I just wanted to say that you mentioned how do they get rid of the stuff there. Well, they usually have auctions, and they invite the public onto the property, and they auction off these, you know, the rental box or unit. If you don't pay your bill, they give you so many months or days or whatever. So now they're inviting the public onto their property.
No, Colleen, you're muted.
Okay, so these people have to come and they spend time there looking over what's in the units and stuff, I would imagine. And so they're going to have public people on the property with no toilet.
Yeah, so
that's just another thought. I don't know how important that is, but
I mean, it's not a public health concern to not have a toilet at a business.
I understand that, but if you think about the whole thing, you know, I'm just saying.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's bad business planning, but it's not a public health concern if a business chooses to set themselves up in such a way where they don't have an office and they don't have a toilet and they work in an automated fashion. That's their discretion.
And
so
I think that also falls under the plumbing code, not as so much as it does.
What was that?
The bathrooms and stuff, I believe it falls under the plumbing code. So we might want to reach out to Jimmy, who's our plumbing.
It does fall under the plumbing code, but that doesn't, the plumbing code has their own certain parameters, and the Board of Health, we have different concerns. And the concerns that we have certainly are just as legitimate. And if they're going to insist on not having an office and not having facilities, then what we're doing is we're reviewing their plan, and we would give them an opinion based on what they're going to finally go along with. Therefore, it would go to the planning board, and the planning board would take into consideration the fire department, the police department, the Board of Health, and then make a decision on to whether or not they're going to impose certain conditions for that site plan to have A, B, C, or D facilities or not have facilities. So, I think that although the plumbing code is correct and the building inspector is correct, he's going by that, we don't have to follow that. We're just making recommendations predicated on what we feel are public health concerns.
Right. I mean, I definitely agree with the public health concern of runoff if there's vehicle or hazardous waste storage, etc. However, I also think that, we don't necessarily get involved with a garage that's open in town that does or doesn't have drains in its floor. So unless we're going to make a unilateral policy about that, I don't know that, as a storage facility, if they typically allow vehicles, maybe there's a concern. And it's something we could ask them to highlight in their plan, in their wastewater runoff plan. But I find it interesting. I don't know. I've seen plenty of these places that are completely automated and there is no human being in sight, and you just show
Yeah.
up with
That's what I'm
with
just
your
reading.
phone, and your phone lets you into your unit, and away you go.
That's
So-
what I was just reading in the design thing, that they're not going to have any employees, no employee parking spaces. Everything's going to be key card automated. I know there's even some storage facilities that you can go to get everything done online. Like you said, they send you the QVC code or whatever, and you just scan it when you get there.
Mhm.
It unlocks your unit.
But
That's fine, and
Yeah.
business plans that's fine for their business. But our concern is not their business, their profit motive, or whatever else they want to do.
Right.
We're trying to make sure that the town of Hubbardston is being promoted in a way so that we feel safe and comfortable. And I also think we should request a whole list of what type of hazardous waste products they would allow to be stored in the
yeah,
facility.
that I could agree with and get behind. I just don't think that, it's up to us to decide whether or not a business needs to have a toilet in an office. If they have the toilet, sure, then we get involved. But, and then hazardous waste, yes. Runoff, yes. Car storage, question mark. I'd like to question all of that.
Yeah.
And that's where it goes, Kate. Once we make our questions and our concerns, if the planning board agrees with us, then they would apply special conditions to the site plan before it is approved.
Mhm.
Predicated on what they feel is their concern as well as ours, and the site and the fire department and the police department. So there's a ways to go with this plan, no doubt about it.
Right. All right. We have a action plan on this. Any other questions or comments from the board?
Is this going to be all one level, like all single level, or are we looking
Based on-
at buildings like
No.
over cubes, the cube storage over in Gardner?
No. It looks like, based on the plan, it's single level.
That's what it looks like on the plan I've looked at. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think that they're planning on building up.
Tallest building I think they recommended was 12 feet.
Any other discussion on that topic? Oh, and we're at unexpected subjects. Anybody have any business to bring under unexpected?
So I know Kathy suggested that we have our next meeting at the senior center tent, which was erected today. And we did reach out to Ryan to see if that was something that was feasible. In the statement that I read before the meetings, it says that we can meet, but no in-house attendance of the public is permitted. And I am not sure how we would include the public in the tent, as their Wi-Fi doesn't reach out there. And we would have to give some accessibility via Zoom. There would still have to be a Zoom meeting in place so that the public could attend like they attend tonight. And I'm not sure how we would make that work. So I was just looking for comments, suggestions, help.
Judy suggested maybe we meet at the elementary school. Maybe they have Wi-Fi. What do you think?
we have Wi-Fi our town offices have Wi-Fi. I don't know if we could be in the senior center.
No,
Then
'cause you're running right into the whole point of going, the social distancing is going to be your problem.
Right, that's where the senior center is the biggest.
Yeah, and that's where the cafeteria, the school has Wi-Fi.
Right.
So, but you could either invite people in and do your social distancing because they got enough room to put everybody 20 feet apart.
No, the governor's order says no public permitted. That Ryan was checking in on that for us with legal.
Well, I know people are dying to come to our meetings, but do you think there would be as many people that came to the town meeting at the rec field would come down to the tent? I don't see where we'd have an overcrowded problem. I mean, they're letting people into Rieta and some of these other places. It seems like we could follow along with that. I don't see where. I'm dying to get back together, quite frankly, and I think these Zoom meetings are starting to bother me. So I prefer an in-face meeting if we could somehow figure it out, I guess.
Yeah, if we could do it at the center school, I'm okay with that.
We're still gonna have a Zoom meeting component for the public and be socially distant and have masks on but
Well, I'm fed up with this. I'm ready to quit. Period.
it's an online meeting tool. It's not the end of the world.
I know
Get better
you're
Wi-Fi.
used to doing all this stuff, but this is not my life. Really
I
don't
understand.
like it.
But so what do you guys want to do?
So just keep looking into it, Mallory.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thanks.
Ryan's away right now. He's on active military duty, so communications with us are far and few in between. He can respond to text sparsely, so any communications that I have with him are not constant. So we'll do the best we can.
I get that.
All right. Any more discussion on that particular topic? All right, hearing none. I have an item to bring to the board, which is there was a yard sale this weekend at the church on the corner of Williamsville Road and Route 68. I don't know if anybody else noticed it. I did because it almost killed me. And then almost killed a motorcyclist and several other people. So if you notice the police logs this week, I'm on there because I pulled over and called the police department and complained about the traffic issue that they were causing with their yard sale. But they also had people milling about, no social distancing. It's a tight space. It was in the front of the building at the, little Y intersection. And in that little space, they probably had, 10 tables and a whole bunch of people walking around. And they had masks on for the most part, but no social distancing.
Hubbardston having a yard sale permit.
What was that?
Is there a yard sale permit in Hubbardston? Like,
I don't know.
The select board or?
Well, I sent a note that the yard sale was going to happen, suggesting that they should follow the COVID regs that we're applying to everybody else. So I think what we need to do is perhaps make a policy this evening that any public yard sale sponsored by anybody, anywhere, needs the approval of the Board of Health before it proceeds. We all assume that people will do things the right way, and but maybe they don't quite understand or they just overlook it. But I do believe that we need to have some type of methodology in place so that situations like this past weekend don't happen. And of course, with a policy like that, would have some contingency that if we get wind of this happening, we have somebody that contacts them and says, sorry, you can't do it because you didn't submit the plan for review.
So what you're saying is that you want to have a policy in town that anybody that has a yard sale has to get a permit.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm
Okay.
saying any sponsored yard sale by an organization such as the church or the senior center or any other organization that is going to have that type of activity needs to notify us and go along with the rules and regulations that we've had other people follow.
Right.
I don't,
So
private individual yard sales, I have no intention of regulating, but there are other circumstances. And clearly we've set the precedent with the senior center. They do a wonderful job. Everything was fine. And it's not like we're going to say no to them if their I's are dotted and their T's are crossed. But at least we would know, and by doing that, they would know what to do and how to proceed and to keep people safe.
yeah, and
Doesn't the select board already have a policy where if a commercial event is happening that Ryan talked to us about it at our January meeting when he came in person, that he was working on getting together a policy where they would have to go through all the different entities in town to ensure that everything was done correctly. So if you're going to be having an event, no matter what it is, you had to approach every board. And like, if there was a tent, then it would go through building and fire. And if they were going to be serving food, we kind of gave them that one pager, Kate, what to expect.
mm-hmm.
The select board is working on something like that, I want to say.
Right.
The problem with I find with Vinny's statement is that the way they had it set up on the church lawn there is going to be pretty typical of what you're going to see on a private property. So here you are, you know, it's either all or nothing. I mean, you have to play. I would go with, you know, policy is fine, but you know, get the word out that if you're going to have, there's a checklist that you have to abide by, and you know, and go from there. I don't see it as being a thing where you have to set up any kind of enforcement action to it. I think it's more of an education, you know, and this is your checklist. This is what you need to abide by. But I can't see, you know, saying what you saw at the church, you're going to see at a private home as well when they have their yard sales. And, you know, September is yard sale season.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, that's why I was asking that, because I'm a big yard saler. So I know that if I was going to have a yard sale, I would place all the tables that I had my goods on, you know, apart from each other. The problem with the church was they have this little teeny space, and they had all those tables all clumped together. So I can see, and I went by it, I know what was going on there, and I can see how that was not a good thing. But if you have a yard sale, most people that have yard sales in their yards, they run the tables up the driveways, and they spread out on their lawns, and they put tarps down, and you know, so you don't really, many times, I think more than none, you'll find that people can abide to a few regulations and wear masks, make sure your tables are spread out, so when people come into your property, they're not all clumped into a small space. And I personally think that would be a good idea. Maybe the answer to this is to just put something on the website saying, hey, here's a few things to follow when you're having a personal yard sale. And I think that would be a great idea.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe make it more expansive than that. How about we look at the current order? Because the current order basically says any outdoor gathering, unless it's for religious expression, which they weren't holding a mass, right? And you know, if it's not a retail establishment that's currently being mandated under its own section, it says gatherings that are subject to the limitations of the section include, without limitation, community, civic, public, leisure, sporting events, concerts, conferences, conventions, fundraisers, fairs, festivals, road racers, and any other similar event or activity. So couldn't we quite simply put something up really boldly on the, you know, front page of the website that says, according to Governor Baker, this is the new guideline. And then below that, say, if you have questions, the board's here. Feel free to submit a plan, what you're planning to do. We'll give you our feedback and input. But, ultimately, gatherings need to be reined back in, right?
But also, and I totally agree with you, Kate, but a yard sale, people don't stay there usually more than 2 or 3 minutes, say, look and see if there's anything they want, and they're gone. People usually don't hang out at yard sales. So you don't really have a constant crowd of 50 people all gathered at once, so that's another thing too.
Yeah, it's a flow of people, but there still needs to be social distancing,
Oh, yes,
does,
absolutely. Yeah, I agree with that. I agree.
It's one of those things. And, it only takes me 1 second to lick somebody's face, right? It's not, not about the amount of time, because you can pass a contagion in a split second. It's not a
If somebody came to my yard sale and wanted to lick my face, I would immediately tell them to leave my property.
Do you think?
I think
the
so.
criterion that Kate read, a private yard sale doesn't follow into those guidelines. In the case of the particular church we're talking about, that would have been considered a fundraiser.
Actually, it basically does, because it says everything except sections 1 and 2. It applies to everything else. So they're being very broad, and they did it intentionally. And 1 and 2 are like specific retail establishments with previous orders and how to operate. And this number 2 is political expression and religious activities. So, they can't, and not going to apply this to a political rally or to a religious activity. Everything else, it's 8 people per 1,000 square feet, no more than 25 people in a single enclosed indoor space.
And what they were doing and what other organizations would be doing would be in the context of that guideline that the government put out. And the private yard sales, because of their motive, would not fall into those regulations, and I don't think it would fall into our purview. So,
They're an outdoor gathering, then they fall under the purview.
Well, an outdoor gathering, I'm not sure that would be correct. It would be just an invitation into somebody's yard, but you're not planning a gathering. Maybe nobody comes.
Public or private venues, homes, backyards, parks, athletic fields, parking lots, fairs, festival. It's literally anything.
Yeah, it could be a barbecue, birthday party. There's
We can toss the question back to the DPH folks and see if they get some clarification. But I agree that, putting something pretty bold and, it's like, let's be careful, folks, if you're going to have a yard sale, you're going to have this, on the website, I think that's a better idea. Education.
Yep. And I'm going to tell you that I know that they're kind of planning a townwide yard sale soon. And so we may want to do this, get stuff up on the website and saying that, this is what you should be doing at your yard sale and things like that. If we really want to, be serious and let people know, remind them how it should be. But that's just, that's just my thoughts.
Yes, let's get something up on the website as a update, reminder as of, the latest from the governor's office on current recommendations. Mallory, if you can post something in the next couple days, that would be great. And then say, as a rural community, we're thinking about such things as yard sales, birthday parties, and other barbecues and other, gatherings at the beaches and the parks and so on. Just remember that we need to be vigilant and not let our guard down, because we are doing well, and let's keep doing it.
Beaches and parks were excluded from that order.
Yep.
Right. But however you want to, kind of put that reminder.
Yeah.
Putting up a reminder is a great idea, Kate, and let's just do it.
Yeah, and then when it comes to people doing this type of public planning, and we see things like posted on forums online and Facebook, etc. What do you guys recommend our policy as a board is in response. Because what I've been doing, like for example, if somebody had posted on one of the forums about questions about the recycle center hours. So I posted a link to our page, nothing more. So if this is posted on our page and you guys are comfortable when you see things like that out in public on social media, posting a link back to the page just to inform the public with no opinion. So we're not, you know, causing any conflict, just saying, here's the information from the board's page. Do you guys agree with that? Is that an okay move forward?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea because I'm usually, you know, I'm on those forums and that's where I found out about yard sales and things like that. And yeah, so I think that's a great idea. And also if you do that, you're not, it doesn't sound like you're just like being, you know, overly knowledgeable because some people don't like that. If you put them to an official link, they know that that is the correct information.
Yep.
Yeah, we've put out you know, that kind of information on the website for the flu season and the EEE last year. So just making an update right now is perfectly fine. We should just do it.
Triple E season is starting back up. All right. Any other unexpected I need to get back here. Ben, I know you're just moving your computer. I don't know if you heard that. Any other unexpected subjects or items you'd like to address?
No, I'm fine. I thought that was good suggestions about the websites. I just had to get off the porch and
mosquitoes.
Wait a mosquitoes. Get the.
All right. Are there any other agenda items that I missed? I don't believe so. I will take a motion to close the meeting if somebody wants to throw one out there.
Move to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
I'd second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.